Boeing now finds itself at the epicenter of a rapidly intensifying global trade dispute, as China announces a sweeping halt on all new purchases of its aircraft and related parts. This unprecedented move sends shockwaves through the aviation industry, signaling a dramatic escalation in the ongoing economic standoff between the world's two largest economies. The decision is a direct and forceful retaliation against the Trump administration's imposition of steep tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. As tit-for-tat measures intensify, the global supply chain feels the strain, with ports, shipping companies, and manufacturers caught in the crossfire. For Chinese airlines, the cost of acquiring Boeing jets has now effectively doubled, making any new purchases financially unfeasible. This not only disrupts airline expansion plans but also threatens to shift long-term business toward European rival Airbus, further escalating the trade war and directly targeting America's largest exporter. President Trump's public accusations against Beijing, met with swift and calculated countermeasures, have transformed commercial aircraft into bargaining chips in a high-stakes economic conflict. The world watches as two superpowers weaponize trade, with Boeing caught squarely in the middle. The halt strikes at the very core of Boeing's business model, freezing a vital revenue stream and leaving dozens of jets, custom-built for Chinese carriers, sitting idle in storage. These aircraft, once destined for bustling Chinese airports, now symbolize the uncertainty gripping the industry. By targeting Boeing, China is applying maximum pressure on Washington, hoping to force a change in tariff policy. The message is clear. No American company, no matter how iconic, is immune from the consequences of a trade war. The fallout is immediate and far-reaching. Production lines slow to a crawl, suppliers across the United States and beyond brace for canceled orders and shrinking demand, and uncertainty ripples through the entire aerospace sector. Inside Boeing's headquarters, anxiety mounts as executives scramble to assess the long-term impact. The future of one of America's most iconic companies, a symbol of national pride and innovation, is suddenly in doubt. The trade war is no longer just political posturing, it's now threatening thousands of jobs, the livelihoods of families, and the very foundation of Boeing's business. As the standoff drags on, the world wonders who will blink first, and at what cost. The financial hit from China's sudden order halt was swift and devastating, sending shockwaves through the entire aerospace industry and rattling investors worldwide. Boeing's cash flow, which relies heavily on the final delivery of aircraft to customers, has been severely disrupted almost overnight. The assembly lines, once bustling with activity, now stand eerily quiet, and the company's financial heartbeat has slowed to a crawl. With over 100 jets for Chinese customers now undeliverable and sitting idle, Boeing faces a sudden and dramatic revenue drought. The company is under mounting pressure to maintain liquidity, as each grounded jet represents millions of dollars tied up with no immediate return. The company had just begun to recover from the deep losses of the pandemic era, with deficits narrowing and revenue on the rise. But this new crisis threatens to undo all that hard-won progress, casting a shadow over the fragile recovery. CEO Kelly Ortberg's optimism for a turnaround year has been overshadowed by the abrupt loss of Boeing's most critical international market. The leadership now faces tough questions from shareholders and employees alike. The company's financial planning is in chaos, forcing a rapid reassessment of both short-term survival and long-term strategy. Emergency meetings are now a daily occurrence, as executives scramble to find solutions and stabilize the business. The capital spent on building these planes is now locked up, with no clear path to recouping costs. Each undelivered jet is a stark reminder of the risks of over-reliance on a single market. Boeing's fragile recovery is at risk of collapsing under the weight of this external shock, as uncertainty looms over the company's future, and the livelihoods of thousands of workers hang in the balance. Boeing's vulnerability in this trade war is magnified by its own recent failures. The 2024 Alaska Airlines door plug incident exposed deep flaws in Boeing's safety culture, leading to regulatory crackdowns and production slowdowns. A 2-month strike further paralyzed operations, compounding delivery delays and frustrating customers. These crises left Boeing weakened, with a tarnished reputation and strained finances, just as geopolitical tensions peaked. The Chinese order halt didn't hit a healthy company. It struck a giant already reeling from internal chaos. Had Boeing maintained its standards and workforce relations, it might have weathered the storm better. Instead, it faces a multi-front battle for survival. The trade war's impact is devastating precisely because Boeing was already on shaky ground. China's aviation market is absolutely vital to Boeing's future, representing not just a significant opportunity, but a lifeline for the company. Over the next 2 decades, China is expected to account for a staggering 1/5 of all new jet sales worldwide. This makes it one of the most important markets for any aircraft manufacturer, and especially for Boeing, which has long relied on Chinese airlines to fuel its growth and maintain its global leadership. Losing access to this enormous market is more than just a financial setback for Boeing. It's an existential threat that could fundamentally alter the company's trajectory. The ripple effects extend far beyond the company itself, threatening the stability of the entire American aerospace sector. Boeing's health is directly tied to the livelihoods of 1.8 million American workers, from engineers and machinists to suppliers and logistics teams. The company is a cornerstone of the nation's export economy, generating billions in revenue and supporting countless communities across the United States. The halt in Chinese sales now threatens these jobs, putting entire communities at risk and raising fears of a hollowed-out manufacturing sector. The impact is felt not just in lost paychecks, but in the erosion of skills and expertise that have taken generations to build. Each undelivered jet sitting on the tarmac worsens the U.S. trade deficit, ironically undermining the very goals that recent tariff policies were meant to achieve. Instead of boosting American industry, these measures are now backfiring, making it harder for Boeing to compete on the world stage. The aggressive trade measures that were designed to protect American industry are now harming one of its most important and iconic players. Workers and executives alike are left grappling with uncertainty, as the future of American aerospace hangs in the balance. Decades of investment, partnership, and trust built up in China are now at risk of unraveling. Boeing faces the daunting prospect of moving forward without its primary growth engine, forcing the company to rethink its global strategy and search for new opportunities in an increasingly competitive market. The challenge ahead is clear. Boeing must find a way to survive, adapt, and innovate without the market it once depended on, or risk being left behind in the rapidly changing world of global aviation. As Boeing stumbles, Airbus stands to gain, with Chinese airlines turning to Europe to fill their fleet needs. But Airbus faces its own limits. Production backlogs and capacity constraints mean it can't fully replace Boeing in China anytime soon. Meanwhile, China is accelerating its own aerospace ambitions with COMAC's C919, but the jet still relies on Western components and isn't yet a global contender. The result is a tense interdependence. China needs Boeing's planes, and Boeing needs China's market. Neither Airbus nor COMAC can fill the gap quickly, making the current freeze unsustainable for all sides. The disruption may eventually force a thaw, but the landscape will be permanently changed. The global aviation market is now a battleground of politics, capacity, and technology. For now, everyone is losing something. Boeing's response is a scramble for survival, reallocating undelivered jets to other markets, especially fast-growing India. The company is aggressively pursuing new deals, like its record order from Qatar and a major U.S. Air Force contract to shore up revenue. Asset sales, including a $10.5 billion divestment of digital businesses, are raising much-needed cash and refocusing Boeing on its core mission. These moves are necessary but can't fully offset the loss of China. Reallocating aircraft is complex, and new orders can't match the scale of the Chinese market. Boeing's strategy is damage control, plugging financial holes, reassuring investors, and fighting to maintain confidence. The path to recovery is long and uncertain, dependent on both internal reform and global politics. For now, survival is the priority. Boeing's crisis is a stark lesson in the risks of global interdependence and over-reliance on a single foreign market. The trade war shows how economic ties can be weaponized, exposing even the mightiest companies to sudden shocks. Internal weaknesses, quality failures, and labor unrest left Boeing especially vulnerable. The lesson for American manufacturing resilience requires both global reach and strong internal foundations. Reputation, quality, and workforce investment are essential for weathering external storms. Boeing's ordeal raises fundamental questions about balancing efficiency with national security and long-term strategy. In a fractured world, survival depends on anticipating and navigating global uncertainty.